right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now. Welcome to another Pirate National Committee meeting. This is your captain speaking, Jolly Mitch of the Chicagoland Nye, the Illinois Pirate Party, and friend of the show. We're going to go ahead with IDs. Can I get first, last name, and state, please, and roll if you have one. I'm going to start with Blaze.
Blaze Henry from Arizona.
Thank you. Drew.
Drew Bingaman, Pennsylvania captain.
Excellent, thank you. Dustin.
Dustin Chryslid, Arizona.
Thank you. Jester.
Ashley Melody, the still interim rep for the Indiana Pirates.
Perfect, thank you. Let's go with Davey.
Okay, I mean I'm the Florida representative, one of the Florida representatives.
Thank you. Wanda.
Wanda Ward, Florida Pirate Party, and U.S. Pirate Party Lookout.
And last but not least, Morgan.
Morgan Landry, Texas Pirate Party, web admin for the U.S. Pirate Party.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Currently, we actually do not have quorum. That should be fixed momentarily when we have one more state party joining us. Actually, Jinx is a member of California who just joined us. Jinx, we're actually in the middle of IDs. Would you be able to give your first, last name, and state you're representing, please?
My birth name is Ben.
That's perfect. And then what state for the record?
California.
Perfect. Thank you. With California's attendance, we actually are a quorum now. So now we could actually begin business. So the first thing we had on, thank you for joining us. We had the first order of business was the admission of Arizona to the PNC. Florida has said that they would sponsor Arizona's admission. Florida has two representatives here today. I think we could just jump right into that. First of all, I want to open the floor up to discussion. I would say if anyone has any questions for Blaze and Dustin, I think this would be the time to do it. Otherwise, right now, the floor is open to anybody. No, I'm not seeing any hands. Blaze or Dustin, do you guys have any comments for everybody?
The only comments we have is that we are thrilled to become a new member, a PNC member of the U.S. Pirate Party, and we will be happy to join, for Arizona to join.
I concur. Well said, Blaze.
All right, most excellent. I don't believe that there's anything else. We accepted the nomination 2 meetings ago when we were last on Jitsi. Today is the meeting that we were going to vote on elevating it. So I guess if we have no other discussion, if we have no other comments from the representatives from Arizona, would anyone officially like to make the motion to call the vote?
4.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right. We could just, I don't think we need to count any objections to Arizona becoming a state party of the United States Pirate Party.
Oh, of course not.
Well, I think with no objections heard, with the power invested in me, I could say congratulations to Blaze and Dustin. The Arizona Pirate Party is officially a voting member and active member state of the United States Pirate Party.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
So now, Blaze,
Congrats.
as both of you were able to attend the last couple meetings, whichever one of you decides to be the regular attendee, just know that Arizona's attendance now will count for quorum. You guys now have the opportunity to vote, and that includes tonight when we call the vote to end the meeting. You had the opportunity to do so. Otherwise, I don't believe that there's anything else. You've been You've been very active. We appreciate what you guys have done. We appreciate you building the state party, and we appreciate that you guys now get the benefit of a vote. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for being here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of Arizona in the coming days. I'm going to have to send or ping both Ryan Codine and Rowan Tipping, because Rowan wanted to speak on an issue, and so did Ryan, and neither of them are here right now. But in the meantime, I guess since we don't have that, is there anything that anyone would like to discuss in the meantime while I take care of that? Blaze, go ahead.
I talked about this last meeting about my potential interest in candidacy and how I didn't want to have it announced yet, but now I'm ready for it to be announced. I'm now ready to have it public and have it official that I'm running for as a representative for Arizona House for District 17.
Well, fantastic.
Congrats. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good job.
Congratulations. To
That's
clarify,
great.
this is the State House of Representatives, right?
Yes, it's not Congress.
Well, that's good. That brings our total to 3. That means we have 3 pirates who are running for state houses, and Darren, who is running for U.S. Congress. So we're moving up in the world. 2026 is going to be a good year for the Pirates. I can feel it. And I'm sure we got some local candidates that haven't announced yet that by the time 2026 does roll around, we're going to be in even better shape. Thank you, Blaze. Is there any other business? All right. I'm seeing no hands at the moment. I guess in the meantime, because Rowan said he's finishing some stuff up, I could just fill in some time. I had sent an email. I believe I had said last time I had sent an email to an independent politician just to see if they would be interested in joining us for the return of Talk the Plank. I have not heard back from them, and just out of privacy, I don't want to put them on the spot and say, hey, we emailed you, respond back, but hey, we emailed you, respond back. So you know who you are, you're watching. So if and when we get that person to respond, hopefully we can have them as our guest. If not, we're going to have the return of Talk the Plank on Talk Like a Pirate Day regardless, which is September 19th, a day I've committed to memory. So any other business to take care of in the meantime, the floor is open. You can just raise your hand. I'm just trying to stall for Rowan or Ryan. Go ahead, Ben.
I am doing a series of 5-question interviews with influential people all around California. And two of the people I could potentially interview are Mike McGuire and Mike Thompson. Anyway, I definitely have 5 questions for those guys.
Fantastic. Is that going to be posted to the California Pirate Party website, or is that an independent venture?
It's an independent venture that I'm doing. It'll eventually be up on my own website that I'm doing. I haven't really gotten it off the ground yet because I don't have a PC, which is why it's been important for me to get a PC over the last couple months, but I just don't have the financing. I'm poor.
Well, we appreciate the good work you're doing. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that you're going out. That's work on the ground. We appreciate grassroots work. Give me one moment. Rowan is asking for the link. Hang on one sec. Oh, sorry about that, but I guess that does mean he should be with us momentarily. He's apologizing. I'm gonna have to tell him not to worry about it. Otherwise, do we? I don't believe there's any state party news. I think that Illinois has another in-person meeting coming up at the first of the month. We typically try to have in-person meetings at the first of the month in each of our different chapters. So that is going to be the goal come the first Sunday of August. Other than that, Illinois has no updates, but Illinois does have a rep. Rowan, could you ID first name and role in the party, please?
Okay. Hello, I'm Rowan. I'm a member of the Illinois Pirate Party, and I'm the captain of the Young Pirates. Sorry for my delay.
Not a problem at all, Rowan. We appreciate you being here. Now, Rowan, we actually did set aside time in the old business. You had a question or an issue you wanted to bring up at the last meeting, the one over IRC about endorsing candidates.
Yes.
So the floor is yours. I want to give you a time to ask questions, and we can bring it to discussion.
Thank you very much. So in short, I wish I had a more beautiful summary to present to you all, but in short, I think that we should start considering being more open in endorsing candidates that share pirate values on all levels, and even if they run as independents, or even if they run for very specific cases where they're running for specific parties, because I think that the only way we can get the pirate vision in action is by having people who are on our side, even if they're not officially running as pirates and not running with our party. I still find a level of usefulness to have connections with people who align with us on a lot of different issues. And so I think that we should consider being more, for lack of better terms, liberal with endorsing. Because I think that would give us a presence, it'd give us connections, and it'd give us an ability to have a say in governing affairs. Again, like people who are elected in office, if we endorse them and they accept our endorsement, that creates a connection right there, which can lead to us having more relevancy in activism as well as politics and governing. But if people disagree, I want to hear what they have to say, of course, and that's my position and not as a summarized form as I thought it would be.
I appreciate you giving your position, Rowan. That being said, does anyone have any immediate responses for Rowan? Blaze, go ahead.
Well, I would like to say I second everything he said with the strongest possible terms, because as many know, that Arizona doesn't have the Pirate Party on the ballot, and it's actually very difficult to get any third party on the ballot here in Arizona. So we are left to run as independents anyway, and I'm pretty sure Arizona is not the only state that makes it so difficult for parties to get on the ballot. So not only is running as independents encouraged, but also practically necessary in order for us to grow our party in the states we need to grow. So yeah, I definitely agree with Rowan on this.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Thank you.
Just quick, I am running as an independent in Arizona, so that helps what Rowan is saying. Just to be clear.
I have no doubt that you'll be endorsed to the highest extent.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and to be clear, we understand that some people may not be able to run with the word pirate next to them on the ballot. That doesn't make you any less of a pirate if you choose the endorsement of the Pirate Party, or if you're seeking the endorsement of the Pirate Party. So to be clear, I'm not against endorsing anybody. I definitely think that if there is an opportunity to endorse an independent candidate, especially an independent candidate that aligns with our values or our goals or anything of the sorts, whether it is us voting on it during a meeting and preemptively announcing we will endorse him if he accepts it, or her, or if we decide they had reached out to us and we do in fact agree with their policies or their campaign or anything of the sorts, and we do wish to endorse them, whatever the process ends up being. Now, if a Democrat or a Republican candidate came endorsed looking for us, that may be another discussion we'd have to have, because while we do have a clause, I guess, written out in our coalition with the Transhumanist Party, All Hands for a Free Future. We have a Dino Rhino strategy written out, which states that while we want candidates to run as pirates and transhumanists where they can and when they can, or independents where they can and when they can, sometimes you have to run as a main party to get on the ballot. And I understand that Drew is going to be running as a Democrat when he runs for his office, whereas Blaze is going to be running as an independent, whereas Joseph Onorowski is going to be running and Pirate will be next to his name. Neither of the three of you are any less Pirate Party candidates. So there is a difference between our guys running as Democrats and Republicans versus Democrats and Republicans trying to find our endorsement. I'm a little more skeptical of the latter. I think the former is more palatable, but it's not something I strive for, but it's something that has to be done at times. Ben, go ahead.
Is it legal to switch parties after getting elected?
Yes, in fact, it is. If I recall correctly, and I wish Ty was here, but West Virginia's governor, Jim Justice, ran as a Democrat, and as soon as he won, he switched to Republican. So if people can do that, why can't we have people run as Democrats and immediately switch to pirate as soon as they get into office? Which is
Awesome.
actually a method I can't believe libertarians haven't expected their candidates to do. You'd feel like they'd be the innovators of that method, but that I don't want to.
They were always really averse to running as anything other than a libertarian. From my experience.
From my experience as well, as a libertarian for so many years, a lot of them, if not a majority, or if all, are unserious clowns. So there is that to be expected from libertarians.
I would definitely say in my time there in the Libertarian Party, I thought the stereotype of libertarians are afraid of roads. I actually did find that a little bit, and it bothered me. But that's the least of our concerns in the Libertarian Party. But let's not get into that. Otherwise, is there any other comments or concerns to this point? I feel like
Can I make one more?
We have kind of established the Pirate Party position, or not established it, but I do think the position does kind of make itself clear that independents that seek it out, or people that seek out our endorsement, we're gonna have to talk about it. If there's someone we want to endorse, we'd be happy to talk about it. But otherwise, I'm not fundamentally opposed to endorsing people that aren't explicitly going to be pirate on the party or on the ballot. I just do believe we will have to approach every single candidate with some type of caution.
Yeah.
That isn't ours by default. Speaking of, that's actually a fantastic transition. In Ohio, there is a gentleman running for governor by the name of Timothy Grady, I believe his name is, and apologize if that's not your name. We will go back and edit this. We won't. But I think he seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's the former chair of the Forward Party of Ohio, and I believe he's since left the Forward Party organization. It sounds to me that he wants to run an independent campaign, and that after the campaign's over, and I'm not going to be spoiling any of his plans not yet in motion, but I don't believe he'll be forming an Ohio Pirate Party after this. I don't think he'll be joining the Ohio Forward Party after this. I think he's got plans up for his own thing in the future. So that being said, he has sought out our endorsement, which perfect transition for new business. I would like us to have him on the stream for a meeting so we can properly discuss this with him. I would like him to be able to pitch his own campaign to us. But I will put forward that with this question being raised, we can put it to test immediately. Drew, go ahead.
I'll make the motion to invite him and have him on so that we can have a discussion.
Seconded.
It sounds
Seconded.
great, though.
Seconded.
All right, thank you. Do we have any discussions or disagreements?
It sounds like a good opportunity, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Can I do a little ramble for
I don't
5
see
seconds?
why we shouldn't hear him out.
Yeah. I think that we should be at a point where, as a party that's not one of the two big ones, even if Tim doesn't have a plan to work with the Ohio Pirate Party, I think that if we can help candidates that are trying to either, well, one of two things. One, promote pirate values, of course, but two, challenge the current two-party system, which I think those don't contradict one another. I think that they can coexist. I think that if we encourage and promote a campaign, possibly like Tim's, it could prove beneficial to encouraging other people to run as themselves, as independents. And we need more of that now, rather than people who are coming out of, like, respectfully, factory candidates is what the term I'll use, where the parties find someone in the neighborhood and see they're registered and try to tell them they should run for office, and they get printed out and put on a ballot. And I'd much rather see people who are actually interested in serving their communities in the way they want to, rather than being forced to or pushed to by outside powers.
Thank you, Ron. And I can't help but agree. I will say that if you're trying to be a pirate candidate, quote unquote, it's going to come off as inauthentic, because to be the most pirate candidate you could be is the most authentic candidate you can be. And if you can come across as, hey, this is who I am and I'm running because I believe in this, I would say 9 times out of 10, we're going to support your campaign just on that basis alone, even if you don't align with copyright, even if you don't align with patent abolition, even if you're not necessarily Pan-American in your foreign policies. We are willing to hear you out and listen. Obviously, you still have to align with our values. We're not just going to endorse anybody, but if we like the cut of your jib, you got a good shot. Is there anything else? I'm hearing nothing. I will make sure Tim gets the invitation, and I will get him to a future meeting. It will obviously be a meeting over Jitsi, and I will make sure when that happens, the week prior, 2 weeks prior, I will let everybody know that we will be having our guest on. Drew, go ahead.
Go ahead and finish. By all means. You didn't sound like you're quite finished.
No, that was it. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I heard more than one. Well, it sounds to me that we're in agreement, but I will put it out there. Is there any objections?
I object.
Well, is there a reason?
Yes, we never did bring up the points made about Alligator Alcatraz in our server earlier. We said we'd bring it up during the meeting.
Thank you, Wanda. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Actually,
oh my
you.
gosh.
I want to. Rowan, please. Actually, I'll open the floor up to you. I would like to take some time to discuss this. Wanda, thank you. Actually,
no. Let's just give it. Can we give it like a round of applause to Wanda, please, for a second?
Yeah. Actually,
because we respectfully, I think we all fumbled there a little bit, or at least the people who heard about that. Because no, it's a huge issue, and I honestly, I don't feel like I'm justified to make a speech on it fully. Not even. I know about Alligator Alcatraz and how horrible it is, but I think it'd be better represented by someone who's actually from the state where this operation is occurring. So I'll give the floor to Oh my gosh, or to Jester or Wanda. I notice Jester has their hand up as well, but Jester or Wanda, whoever wishes to speak on the subject first.
I will. I'll throw it to Wanda just because you're the one who made the motion first. So I just wanted to see what you have to say about it, and then we'll throw it right to Jester.
I don't know that I have anything particularly grand to say on the topic, to be completely honest, because I'm not really from that part of the state. I know it's a bad thing. I don't think people should be held in those conditions at all. It's absolutely abhorrent that that's where we are as a country. But I'll cede the floor to Chester.
Thank you. Jester, you can go ahead.
Thank you. So one thing, I don't really have as much to say on it, more is to provide some more context to something that has been reported. Well, maybe I shouldn't say reported. Something I heard from a corner of the internet that I am hesitant to fully trust, but considering who it's coming from, I wouldn't say it's out of the realm that it's real. I'm hearing reports that at least at some isolated facilities, there has been attempted attacks on ICE facilities. And I'm meaning with with people with arms and explosives. I don't know where it was. I've been told, I've just been told that that has been reported. And it's from someone that, while I wouldn't say that this person I can always expect to be right on everything, considering where it's coming from and where, I'm hesitant to not at least be a little concerned that this might be real. Mitch, you're muted.
Thank you, Jester. Morgan, go ahead.
I can't speak about Florida, but I can confirm there was an attack on an ICE facility in Texas.
Well, thank you for reporting that or confirming the authenticity of a report like that. You go ahead. If I cut you off, please continue, Morgan. I'm sorry.
Well, we received alerts, police alerts about looking for a particular criminal. I'm a bit on the spot here, so I don't remember the person's name, but I looked the crime up, and it was a person who had escaped from an attack on had evaded police after an attack on an ICE facility. That's all I know at this point, but it did happen.
Well, thank you for reports of confirmation. Like I said, these are obviously scary times, unprecedented times, and I hate to. I do tend to hear unprecedented times quite a bit, and we've heard it quite a bit, especially over the last 5 years or so. But right now, in my lifetime, this is I've never seen anything like this. It's certainly it's harrowing. It's scary. I don't, it's uncertain. You're not sure what's going to come of all this. The best advice I can give right now is to resist. I don't know what resistance means to you, but if you are, to me, it just means do not comply to what's happening. Whether that means don't stay silent or whether that means vocally speaking out against it. Whatever level you say resistance we have to meet, just resist, frustrate this. You cannot merely say that this is okay and I, as an American, am will allow this to happen unimpeded. The scariest part about this is that this doesn't go away if and when Trump goes away. This is a system that's being built, and we could be looking at a future with someone far worse than Trump ever was. And I want us to understand that this is what we are up against, and we have to approach this knowing that the future is uncertain with these people in charge. I will once again, and Rowan, I will get to you right as soon as I make this last statement. I will state that the people who are in charge, and I don't just mean the terrorists in the GOP, I mean the terrorists in the DNC too. They have caused a division in this country that has been a constant battle of one-upsmanship that has now divulged into this battle of unfettered capitalism and governmental overreach, and everyone's trying to outdo each other, and it's just leading to pain and suffering, and it's terrible. And if the Democrats, who are the only or are the most likely people to take power from the Republicans, take power, I said this on the Twitter, they will dangle the keys of change in front of the voters' faces before singing the song of compromise with the GOP. The GOP will not cede any ground to the DNC. And every time the DNC says we need to compromise with these people, we legitimize their cause. We cannot continue on in a society of just Democrats versus Republicans. We need something new. Rowan, then Blaze, go ahead.
First of all, I just want to say I agree with everything you just said. But also not that the reports are vital to understanding our current climate. So I first want to say, like, specifically respond to the conditions of Alcatraz, as they call it. I'm not a local Floridian. I can't speak to the nature of the local politics, but I can speak to the nature of what I've seen based on news reports from various different outlets and from images of the site itself. There's been debates within the Discord about what is classified. I would openly myself, as an individual, I'm not speaking for the party, would classify it as a concentration camp based on the definition of what a concentration camp is. It's deplorable conditions. They're put in small quarters, and this is simply due to the fact that the government is currently on an all-out assault against anyone who's considered an illegal, I'll put in air quotes, illegal immigrant. I think that I personally condemn it. I think I don't want to push too hard, but I think the party should condemn, and I think it already does inherently by the values we hold, the current actions against immigrants writ large. But I'd first like to say that the point made in the server is heard and recognized, and that Alligator Alcatraz is a concentration camp, and we are under an oppressive dictator, in my opinion. And secondly, I think in relation to what you said, Mitch, I think it's not even just unprecedented times. We're in a way it's unprecedented times, but we're also kind of rhyming history. When fascism comes to the forefront, these are the patterns we see. People say, "Oh, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're just overreaching." But I genuinely believe, in my heart of hearts, that the MAGA movement, which I agree is not just ending with Trump, the MAGA movement is a fascist one that it will never concede until it has power against all those they deem undesirable, whether it be, again, illegal air quotes immigrants, whether it be LGBTQ plus folks, whether it be people who are considered on the wrong side of politics compared to their movement. So many groups are put at harm. I can't say I even listed them all. I won't pretend I listed them all. It's unprecedented times, surely, but it's also, in my opinion, quite clear that we are having to resist this sort of neo-fascism, this uprising of fascism at a very scary time that seems like it's already happened under a different tune. But I think the patterns are quite clear that this hyper-nationalism and hyper-centralization of the state could only result in a resurgence of a modern-day fascism. And I would plead to all members that we try to help in solidarity with other organizations in this country, in this world, to push against this horrendous and evil movement that we see so clearly every day in the news and in our streets. That's all I have to say, and I thank you for the time.
Thank you, Rowan. And as the quote says, fascism will come to the United States wrapped in a flag and a cross, or I believe that's the quote, or something to that effect. And Frank Zappa once said that the conservatives in this country are trying to turn us into a Christian version of the Ayatollah's Iran. And I think that's a good explanation of what Christian nationalism is. So it is. Thank you, Rowan, for your words. Blaze, go ahead.
I think with everything has been said, like you having saying that the Democrats are going to jingle the gears when they come in power, and you talking about the Republicans and Alligator Alcatraz, like all of that comes to one ultimate conclusion, one ultimate logical conclusion, and that's why with the Arizona Pirate Party website, our platform mentions neutering the executive, because that's what ultimately is what caused all of this. Is that the executive has created too much power, so much power that it essentially made Congress neutered itself. So, in that regard, we have to then make necessary steps and advocate for decreasing the power of the executive. Because let's fast forward to 28, and let's assume for let's assume that whoever the DNC nominates, whether it's Newsom, Pritzker, Gretschel, maybe AOC, wins the presidency in 28. What happens then? The presidency the executive has shown to be very trustworthy authoritarian position in government for the past decade alone, if not longer. Something that has been a problem ever since Lincoln. It has slowly but exponentially grown its authoritarian powers ever since the Civil War. And now it's finally reared its ugly head with Trump. And once we wrest control from him before it's too late, we must do what we can to make sure that it never happens again. That the presidency cannot just be a king unto itself and ignore the Constitution or whatever they want. We have the Constitution to prevent this, and yet here we are. So what does that tell us? That the opposition either can't stop it or they want it for themselves in a belief of going back to the status quo order or to normal, when there is no normal anymore. We can't exactly pretend that we can go back to business as usual during Obama, right? That's what we tried. That's what the DNC tried with Biden, and yet here we are again. The status quo has to change, otherwise we will right back here, possibly with a worse Republican president. None of this works. If we go back, if the DNC wins 28 and we're right, and they don't do anything to decrease the executive, and the Republicans win in like 32 and right back here again. The executive power needs to decrease, otherwise none of this works.
Thank you, Blaze. And here. Just remember, folks, if it's too much power for the president when it's not your guy, it's too much power for the president when it is your guy. You got to think that just because someone you like is the president and you like the power they have, if the power that they have was in someone else's hands and you don't like it, it's too much power. Drew, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what Blaze is saying. Now, the question is, how does that happen? Because as it has been demonstrated, several times, many times over the past 10 years, but specifically this year, the Constitution, the laws of the United States don't mean anything if nobody is willing to enforce them. And that includes the courts, that includes Congress abdicating their authority, that, we have blatant schemes to steal elections. It's the bottom line is, I think, and I hate to say this because I don't have much faith in it, but I think the only answer within the framework of what we have now is a constitutional convention. And I think that's the only way the United States can move forward without either becoming a long-term dictatorship or breaking apart into several possibly warring nations. And I hate that I can't believe that I'm actually saying those words and that it's likely.
Thank you, Drew. And let me make one thing clear. I remember Ben Shapiro calling for a constitutional convention when Obama was president, and there was nothing Obama did that called for a constitutional convention like what's happening today. So I don't think that that's too extreme of a position. I'm glad someone's thinking about the future in such a manner. Jester first, go ahead.
Thank you, Mitch. So I think a lot of us are at least even me, are like sort of, thinking about, how do we fix this, forgetting that, and not to say that you're wrong, Drew, and that we totally need a constitutional convention. The problem is that it's functionally right now, if we were to do that, even if we were to try and do that, like if we won the next election, you would be functionally trying to argue to remove executive power and remove it back to the legislative branch, in a legislative branch culture that notoriously gives up its authority multiple times in the past 20 years. We often forget that, there was no official declared war on, ISIS or Al Qaeda. The president just said, we're going to go and, we're going to do the whole, war on terror. The war on terror was a functionally undeclared war in over a dozen nations. We didn't declare war against any individual country other than Iraq, and yet we went to war in over a dozen. So I think part of our approach to this, we need to think about what can we practically do in the current paradigm of the U.S. government, which isn't to say that it can't be done with a constitutional convention, but that we need to find a theoretical framework through which those goals can be accomplished within the current culture of the state, which, I don't like thinking of it that way, but it kind of has to be.
Thank you, Ashley.
I would just
Blaine.
like to
Go ahead.
respond to that briefly.
Sure, Drew, go ahead.
Jester, I understand what you're saying, but quite frankly, that just leads us into a dictatorship. The way that you're talking, it ends in either a dictatorship or civil war. The Constitutional Convention is not just about creating less executive authority. A constitutional convention is a complete rewrite. I mean, we've already done it once. The Constitution that we have is not the original Constitution of the United States. The previous version failed. This version has now failed, and we need a complete rewrite. What we need to advocate and we need to figure out is what form does that federal government take? And I know what you're thinking, that the current framework is all of these fascists in this country. And quite frankly, there aren't that many. It's just nobody's fucking stopping them.
Thank you, Drew. Real quick, Ben, did you have your hand up? I thought I saw you briefly, putting your
I
hand
did,
up.
but I was actually trying to point at Blaze because they've put like 3 different hands up so far.
Perfect. Blaze, you're actually next. You can go ahead.
Well, I just want to agree with Jester and add to it in that we're ignoring with the Constitutional Convention. Even let's assume that's what we need for hypothetically. Let's assume that's what we need. The biggest elephant in the room with that is the fact that we still need 34 states to agree to a constitutional convention, which means there's not going to be enough blue states to agree to a constitutional convention, which also means that we're going to need red states to agree to a constitutional convention. I don't know how many red states are going to agree to do a constitutional convention. And that's arguably the biggest hang-up with that, in my opinion.
Thank you, Blaze. Wanda, then Jester.
I think your point, Blaze, kind of ties in a little bit with my point. If there were a constitutional convention, who would be there? Who would be writing this new constitution, hypothetically? I worry about that. I don't know. I don't know that I trust the powers that be. And if you're going to do this the way that is currently outlined, you would kind of have to trust the powers that be, at least in some capacity, in a large portion of our states. And I just simply do not think that's where we are. At least if you're talking about doing this the legal way as is outlined in our Constitution.
Thank you, Wanda. Jester, go ahead.
Thank you, Mitch. So I don't mean to be the Debbie Downer on this sort of thing. I really do wish that we were in a position where calling a constitutional convention would be practical. But part of the problem of calling a constitutional convention and why it hasn't been called in over what is it over 2 centuries now? Like the last one was for the was to get rid of the Articles of Confederation. But we functionally have not had a major change in constitution since one of the biggest, some of the biggest wars in our history, at least for the founding of our nation. And let's take other democracies, for example. For instance, the French Republic. It's currently on its fifth constitution, and that constitution didn't come into effect until a major economic crisis combined with the loss of multiple overseas wars, like in Vietnam. And the chaos that that created enabled them to have like a change of constitution, but it got to that point due to the people being fed up with it. And here's the thing, sure, a lot of people are fed up with it right now in America, but how many of them are going to be willing to agree to do anything that would be necessarily beneficial in the long term? I'm sorry, but if you're going to do that, you're going to have 50% of the states which are red are going to vote to give all emergency power to whoever's in charge if it's them, and if it's not them, they will do everything in their power to strip the executive branch of anything it has, just to ensure that they are always in power. We're applying a logic of idealist philosophy of politics to a situation where there is no idealism here. It is do what needs to get done for your side to win. And that's the current paradigm of party politics that we're in right now. Not to say it should be that way. I don't think it should, but we have to play the game within the current paradigm. And sadly, we're not in a position where that's one we can play with right now, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Jester. Real quick, Drew, could I have you restart the stream? And once the stream is restarted, I'm going to let you go ahead and pick up where we left off.
All right, hang on a second.
Thank you.
Now that I don't know that it's fixable.
Hold that thought, Wanda. Drew, go ahead.
That's exactly what I'm saying, Wanda. It's not fixable. The United States Constitution has failed. We are a failed state. That's why we're a dictatorship. It's over. The United States Constitution is over. What we need to be talking about, what we need to be advocating is how do we move forward and not end up in a dictatorship moving forward that gets worse and kills millions of people, or ends up in a civil war that breaks apart this country and ends up killing millions of people. That's why I suggest the Constitutional Convention. Everything I'm hearing from you, from all of you, is that we can't fix it. Well, then why are we a political party? The point of being a political party is to advocate for solutions. And quite frankly, I'm very disappointed in all of you.
Quite frankly, Drew, I'm not sure that we can avoid the former without the latter.
Wanda, we will get back to that. Morgan, you are next.
I'm so glad I'm here. So I did while everyone was talking, I did some quick Googling, and it takes 2/3 of the states to propose, under the current constitution, it takes 2/3 of the states to propose the constitution and 3/4 to ratify it. So I think just from a purely pragmatic perspective, we don't have 3/4 of the states that will agree on anything like that. However, I do agree with Dread Pirate Drew. Like what our Constitution it's outdated. It's wonderful. It lasted almost 250 years, but it's outdated. And I do think that we should be at least thinking about a platform that proposes some necessary changes, because we don't know what the future lies. I don't think anyone wants a civil war or anything like that, but I think we should be at least thinking like if we could propose a new constitution, what would we want to have? I mean, that's where we're a political party. That's the sort of thing we should be thinking about. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we jump into Blaze, because Blaze, you will be next.
I would like to abstain from my hand.
Perfect. Then Jester, you will be next. But with that being said, I agree with Drew and Morgan here. We are a political party. The point of us existing is to raise a voice on issues aren't being raised a voice to. You know, Alligator Alcatraz, I'll be the first to admit that the United States Pirate Party hasn't put out a statement towards Alligator Alcatraz. I have through the Spyglass article I plan on putting out about, Trump's overreach. And I request if someone could write a message in a bottle about Alligator Alcatraz, I'd be happy to post it to the website. But writing about it isn't going to do anything. A constitutional conference, at the very least, or constitutional convention rather, is calling for action. We need some type of definitive action. I understand the hesitancy because right now the the terrorists and the GOP are in control of the majority of states. But that's the issue at hand. We have to get our country back from the terrorists who occupy the nation. Which it's our job as a political party, as people who are actively in the thick of it, to figure out how to tell the average American things need to change and you need to care about this, which is the first responsibility of any political party. Jester, go ahead.
Thank you, Mitch. I actually do agree with both you and Drew on this. Like, functionally speaking, the Constitution is dead, and we need to, fix this entire broken system. And arguably, the only way I could see long-lasting systemic change in this country would be with a full constitutional convention and a complete constitutional overhaul, especially because we're functioning on a constitution that was written mostly pre-industrial revolution, and it's not really it's built in a paradigm of communication that it took 2 weeks for for word from one city to travel to the other. And now we're now in a paradigm shift where, I can talk to someone from China literally right now if I wanted to. Communication has changed so much that it necessitates a constitutional convention. I think maybe what a lot of people here, at least, are concerned about is like, how do we get ourselves to the point where we can do that? Now, I think that maybe through making good use of our strategic partnerships with like the transhumanists and maybe doing some really impressive, if we can do it, outreach to try and get the word out to the general US public that, you know what, maybe we should do a convention. Let's let's decide what is the future of our country here. The only problem I would see with that is getting anyone in the current government to agree to that, because a constitutional convention does necessarily require some consent of the government to at least a limited extent. But if you were if all chaos is going to reign, at some point you need to. Sorry, I'm pulling out my anarchist theory here. In order to enforce the rules of the constitution and whatnot, you need to have the force to back it up, whether that be economic power or literal force of arms. So not to call for either, but if we were to be in that sort of bad situation where we're forced to call a constitutional convention through force, that would be what we're looking at. But at least for now, we should try and focus, I guess, on trying to get the word out through normal ways. But a constitutional convention by its nature is hard to start, and it's by its nature is also very difficult to get anyone to agree to. So I think I was just trying to trying to explain that we're not so much against it, so much what is the practical steps we get to that point. If you and you, Mitch and Drew, are understanding what I'm meaning there.
Wanda, then Blaze.
I just wanted to give a big thank you to you, Gesture, because you've made my point far better than I could ever make it. My main concern is who would be in the room for such a convention if it were to happen, and how would we ever get to the point where we are having the convention?
I just want to throw this out there. It hit me like a lightning bolt just now. Is one of the things we could do is declare, as political parties, should we consider declaring the current government of the United States, what's the word I'm looking for? Invalid. To essentially say it's now null and void. It is no longer serving the people of the United States. So essentially, if we called a constitutional convention of minor parties and got together and said we are going to essentially we're going to start building a second government, and we're going to say that no, this is no longer, this cannot occur. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. I just want to throw that out there as we discuss conventions and discuss different ideas of what we as political parties can do in the future. But I don't want to put that statement out there as an endorsement. I just want to throw that out there to pick our brains. But Blaze, you go ahead first.
I was just going to say, if we're going to use, like, for example, the 2024 election results as a guideline for how many blue states there are, there's like 18 states that are total blue, which is very much short of the 34 states needed to get a convention, which means we need at least 10 red states to agree to a constitutional convention. Now, they might agree to a convention for their own selfish reasons, but that's kind of what Wanda's point here is. There is no way a constitutional convention will happen without the red states coming to terms with their own like positions and having ones that are completely like at different polar opposites of what those who call for the convention to agree with, and to agree to a new constitutional convention. I'm not saying it's impossible to get a constitutional convention agreed to. I'm just saying that's a devil we have to agree with, and so to speak, in order to get that constitutional convention. And we need to accept with the possibility, if we do agree that we need a constitutional convention, that we need to accept the possibility that it all falls apart. And that that's whatever happens, so to speak. My words are lost on me with that a little bit.
Thank you, Blaze. Morgan, go ahead.
Morgan Lane from Texas speaking. I just wanted to say I do support what you and Drew are saying about needing a constitutional convention. I think if we talk about calling the current one invalid, just to ascertain publicly that we're going to do this through the democratic process and not necessarily, I don't know, use violent means to achieve our goals.
Thank you, Morgan. I believe, first of all, Ben, thank you. I appreciate it. Since we have Rowan, we'll maintain quorum if you want to duck out, so you're good to go. Thank you. I believe it is Jester, then Wanda. If you two tell me it's the other order, let me know. But otherwise, I'm going to go Jester, then Wanda.
I guess I'll go then, unless Wanda has any objections to that.
It's fine. I can wait.
Okay. So thanks again, Mitch. I was so not to nag on everyone, but I think one thing we would have to keep in mind if we were to want to go down this path, especially if we were to work with our alliance partners to attempt to do something this crazy. Not that I'm totally not in favor of it. Totally not. we would have to realize that any attempt at this sort of activity, even if peaceful, will be interpreted as an act of rebellion and insurrection and would be considered an act of treason. Anyone who wanted to do this and even express, this would be functionally signing another Declaration of Independence and would be functionally us declaring to the federal government that we are in an act of rebellion, which would necessitate for any person to be part of this to be basically signing their own death warrant. And I don't, now, honestly, I'm not to say that I wouldn't sign any document like that, but I don't know how many people, especially Americans, are willing to do that. And especially how many are willing to show up in force to demonstrate that we want this. It's not that we shouldn't do this. I think it may be, it may be the only option, but we'd have to keep that in mind for everybody here and for anyone who would want to join, is that that would be functionally what you are doing.
Thank you, Jester and Morgan. I love that you just brought up Rojava. I'm a big believer in democratic confederalism. I actually just quoted Abdul Asalan in the Discord the other day. Wanda, go ahead.
I wanted to circle back to the whole parallel constitution thing you had mentioned earlier. And I'm sorry if I completely missed your point, Jester. I was zoned out looking at the Discord. But my whole thought behind that is that only works if a large portion of the American public is behind it. And even then, if the government in power is not behind it, then that leads us down the path of civil war, and that's something no one wants.
I think that's the key, Wanda, is we are all, I think everyone should be. If they're not, they should be afraid of civil war. I think when people look at the end of the Cold War, which may not have ever ended, to be clear, but the official end of the Cold War saw the USSR collapse into, I believe the number was officially 12 states. People like to claim that that was a bloodless dissolution, and it wasn't, especially when you look out to the east. Tajikistan had a bloody civil war, and it was not nearly as peaceful everywhere within the Soviet Union as some people like to make it out to be, simply because it was more peaceful in Europe. We have to be careful, because whereas some states will secede, and I'm not saying this as though this is a certainty of the United States, but in a reality where secessions happened, there would be states that secede and nothing is going to happen to them. I think about the American Civil War, where you saw a state like Florida, for example, who was in the Confederacy, but because they were in a position geographically separated, they didn't see a lot of fighting. There weren't a lot of battles within the Florida Peninsula. And I can't help but think that there are going to be some states that see themselves leaving and nothing's going to happen to them, and they're going to forever think that this was that this was the right move and that nothing came of it. And they may always have the opinion that, oh, it was a bloodless secession because it was bloodless for them. And people right now may know it's going to be bloodless for them, and thus willing to push more divisive narratives to get their division, get their way, and hopefully see a balkanization of the United States. And I'm telling you guys right now, the United States Pirate Party in our platform specifically states that we advocate for the self-determination of people. And we cannot be afraid to stand on our morals. The United States government, whether it be a GOP-controlled or a DNC-controlled government, will look at our platform and they will say, will you guys advocate for independence if independence is warranted? And I will say with my chest, yes, I do agree with that statement. I believe in the self-determination of peoples. And I think that we as U.S. citizens have a responsibility to maintain that belief. And I believe it's praxis to say we do believe in self-determination. And right now, we don't feel represented by the government of the United States. So to just rehash some of the concerns, I understand completely the fears of, well, if we call a constitutional convention, who's going to lead it? Or if we don't call a constitutional convention, what are our other options? History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. If you look back to the War of 1812, it was the North that wanted to secede because they thought the War of 1812 was ridiculous, and it was Mr. Madison's war. It was ridiculous. But I can't help but think that not addressing issues of regionalism and secular or sectionalism, rather, if it's not addressed, it took 50 years for it to disintegrate, but it did disintegrate over those 50 years and was a slow burn. And right now, I feel like it has been a much quicker burn for I want to say the decay of the United States of America. It's true. Reading your comment, I'm glad you're running for the House of Representatives, and that's the thing. We should be having guys running for state house. I think that any guy, gal who's watching this, if you want to run for any office that is beyond a school board or library board, run for state office, especially when you consider how many of your state representatives and state senators run unopposed every 2 years or 4 years or 6 years. We allowing unopposed incumbents permit this system of corruption and this rottenness, this stench to permeate. So do yourself and your fellow Americans a favor and for God's sakes run for something, because we cannot let the terrorists within the GOP and the DNC continue to have a grip on power without ever fearing losing it. Something's got to give, something's got to change. And truly, I don't say it lightly that I consider these people terrorists. And I think the culture war which Democrat and Republican politicians have created, it is meant to divide and conquer us. And I truly, I will not negotiate with terrorists. Does anyone else have anything to say on this issue?
If I may.
Please.
So mine is less informative on this one, but more so my personal stance. If we do decide to try and organize with the alliance partners to attempt to call such a thing, if we were to, advocate a calling of another constitutional convention, the way I've been speaking this past, hour hasn't necessarily been me giving my personal thoughts, but is more so, trying to remind everyone of what these sort of declaration would entail. But I will say, if we do want to do this, I may be the last person to sign it, but I will be the one with the biggest signature. I will openly put myself as the first target of whoever tries to go after us.
Thank you, Jester. And Morgan, to your point, do we need our own Project 2025? I actually would like to throw out, if you've ever played the game Mafia, which is when you have a circle of people and 2 people are the hitmen. And as you look at each other, the hitmen are supposed to blink at you. And if they blink at you, you're dead and you're out. And the game is to figure out who the 2 hitmen are before they kill everybody. And the point of that game is to say that 2 people with a plan against a mass of people that have no plan can oftentimes outmaneuver the mass of people. So us being disorganized would help nobody. They are currently organized against us. They are against the American people. They are organized against liberty and freedoms and everything the original Constitution stood for. So we do have a responsibility to stay organized and get together and have a plan moving forward, because right now the hitmen are winning. and we have to, and I'm not saying we have to become hitmen, so to speak, but I am saying that we have to get together and devise a plan and act on that plan, because talking about it is only going start blinking. Talking about it is only going to bring awareness to it. There has to be something in action. Is there anything else? I am hearing nothing. Respectfully, if you guys don't mind, I would like to continue this conversation in 2 weeks and have this on old business. I would like to continue to discuss what we as the United States Pirate Party can do. I don't necessarily know if we want to continue discussing a constitutional convention or if we want to discuss an actual plan in motion, but I would like us to take some time in 2 weeks to discuss what is it that we as a party are able to achieve and hope to achieve. Blaze, go ahead.
I just have one thing to say, and I would like to make a motion to request not to have it on our platform about advocating for a constitutional convention, at least for now.
I will say you can make the motion, absolutely, but I will say that anything that is put on our platform typically, with very rare exception, does come through the platform committee first. That they will send it up to the board and say, hey, we have this, we think it'd be good on the Pirate Party platform. Uh, can you add it? And they've sent us things where we talked it over and we ended up sending it back to the platform committee. So
I perfectly understand that. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
putting that out there for now, if that's something we want to put on our platform, something we want to openly declare, we don't do it, at least for now, until we have more discussion on that.
Absolutely. I'm just throwing it out there that based on our processes to begin with, we wouldn't have this on the platform anytime soon. Nor would I even it wouldn't be a good idea at the moment. Until we have a plan, we shouldn't announce the plan until there is a plan. So I will agree with you, Blaze. I think that's fair and apt. Wanda, go ahead.
I just wanted to say I do feel like there is a lot more to say on this topic, and I do agree with putting this on old business and discussing this further at our next Jitsi meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, Wanda. And I actually, now that we've talked about the platform committee, I will make a call to action and ask that if volunteers, if anyone's listening on YouTube, and speaking of, if anyone can check the YouTube comments, see if there's any questions we have to answer. But if anyone's watching on YouTube or if anyone's on the Discord watching this after the fact, I would like the platform committee to get together and kind of brainstorm these ideas. Again, we're not adding anything to the platform. We're not trying to make a commitment. But going into our meeting in 2 weeks, if the platform committee has come up with a couple ideas of things we could do, we could discuss those. Again, I don't plan on adding anything to the platform, and I don't plan on calling a vote to add anything to the platform anytime soon. However, having the committee work on the side so we don't have to wait for this conversation to start up again in 2 weeks, that would be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, I will ask if there's anything else, and I will also ask if Drew's motion to adjourn is still on the table.
I actually had something I wanted to bring up that was said in the that was brought up in the YouTube chat, and that's the Kids Online Safety Act. Y'all familiar with this?
That is what just happened in the EU and UK, correct? That is with the age verification laws.
This is a similar proposed law in the US. It was introduced in the previous Congress, and it was reintroduced in the current one in May.
yeah, our elected officials hate us. Uh, if I may, and then Jester, I will have you go ahead as soon as I finish the statement. Uh, if anyone hasn't been following what just happened on the T app, people had to upload their licenses to use the app, and now it was a massive data breach. I don't even think it was a data breach because the security wasn't even that great. It was just sent to like this. It was sent to a non-secure location that people were easily able to access. But just it immediately it's beyond a privacy concern; it's a safety concern. And let me be clear: privacy is a consequence of justice, which means that until we have privacy, there is no justice in this country. Uh, Jester, go ahead.
Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate it. So I think a lot of, especially the reasoning for behind this bill being passed is two reasons. One, it's, the return of the protect the children nonsense that we see every other decade or so. The last one was like the video games cause violence in the 90s. But one before that was either gay people or I think what people, black people going into white people's schools. So, you know, we take that as it were. But I think a lot of the problem here is that a lot of especially young parents are in favor of this, not necessarily because it's smart, but because they don't want to actually parent their children and just want to have the internet raise them because they don't want to be bothered to, you know, take care of the, child that they brought into the world. And I feel that a lot of this legislation is just enabling people to behave worse. Because, if I had a kid, I would want to be involved in their life. And, the fact that I'm seeing so many people online who are like, we need this to protect our children. And I'm like, don't you have privacy? Don't you have features that you can use to disable certain access on your the kid's device? Can't you, I don't know, check what, you know, websites your child is visiting? I can do that with my local network. I can see anything anyone's visiting on my Wi-Fi. But I guess these parents don't want to because they're, basically wanting the internet to raise their children and consequentially want the government to say that the, internet has to raise their children. And I feel like we need to point out this is that like this is just people being lazy and also just it's going to, be harmful to privacy in general with like the T app or with the various nonsense with the various not safe for work sites on the internet. I mean, there was the Steam thing last week, so there's that. But yeah, I think this is largely a social issue, like a social issue rather than an actual like legitimate concern, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Jester. Wanda, go ahead.
I just wanted to add on that I feel like part of this is an education issue, and a lack of education on how to raise your children. Parents are parents aren't looking out for their children the right way, and so they're expecting the government to look out for them when that shouldn't be the government's responsibility in this particular case. It should be on the parents to supervise their children.
I agree. Thank you, Wanda. Uh, Folks, is there anything else? We are having a stellar meeting, so I do want to ask: is there anything else we wanted to cover tonight? I agree. We should legalize weed. Rowan says in the chat, and I couldn't agree more. You know, the decriminalization of drugs caused Portuguese overdoses to go from, I think, 500 a year to 50. Do what works. Anything else? If I hear nothing, I'm going to consider Drew's earlier motion to adjourn to be valid, and I do believe I heard a second. And if Wanda's rejection from earlier has now been amended, I'm willing to accept that motion in second.
No objection here.
Fantastic. Well, folks, thank you again for tuning in. Thank you, everyone, for attending. To Blaze and Dustin and to the Arizona Pirate Party, I say congratulations. Welcome to the crew. We're very excited to have you guys aboard. And Drew, God, I love this party. You know why I love this party? Because we have honest conversations like this about what needs to be done about the United States. Because the United States needs to change. We have a couple goals in mind for the United States, and that inclusion is not limited to being a good neighbor, to keeping our water clean, and if purchasing isn't ownership, and piracy isn't theft. And it may not be the most pressing issue all the time, but damn it, it is always true. Folks, vote pirate. Victory is ours. Have a good night.